Good morning, everyone. We've decided, just for those of you who are true bluegrass aficionados, we don't want you to think that we don't know what we're doing. This is, because we don't. This is called When the Storm is Over, and we'll be doing when the bluebirds are singing for the special music. You're special. We are special. Yep. 2, 1, 2. Good morning. Good morning. I confess I was a little ill-prepared. The boss had to tell me, "You're up, you have to go pray." So let's take a deep breath. Big inhale, big exhale. It reminds us that we are each an echo of the divine. We are each leaving an echo of perfection with every word, with every action, with every thought, with every feeling that we intentionally bring forward in a consciousness of wisdom and compassion. And so we come together this morning to celebrate, to connect, to be that which we long to see in the world. With song, with silence, with meditation, spoken word, smiling faces, young and old, we are grateful, so grateful. And so it is. And we go forth and we be that gratitude. Amen. Good morning. Good morning. Please rise and stand and sing with us. I'm going to sing and you'll repeat after me. You
hear about the firecrackers just lighting up the skies. So let's do some lighting up here today in unity. Welcome, everyone. We're glad that you've chosen to be with us this morning. If you are a guest, we'd like to direct your attention to the welcome station just out in the hallway outside the sanctuary. You can find information there about unity and ways to get connected. Please send your cell phone into the silence while you're in this sacred space. Thank you. Today, we are in for a real treat. In addition to being an ordained minister, our guest speaker holds a BA in anthropology and archaeology. She is a certified master in polarity thinking, is the chair of the Greater Kansas City Interfaith Council, and the author of numerous articles, blogs, and the book, Who Have You Come Here to Be? 101 Possibilities for Contemplation. Please join me in welcoming back Reverend Kelly Assola. At Unity, we offer practical spiritual teachings that empower abundant and meaningful living. We believe and practice the following. God is absolute good, everywhere present. Our essence is of God, and therefore we are inherently good. We create our experience by the activity of our thinking. Prayer and meditation are the highest form of creative thinking. As we practice these principles, we live the truth we know. Join me in speaking aloud our vision, mission, and core values. Our vision is, we celebrate a spiritually awakened world. And our mission is,
we inspire the awakening and practice of divine love in every heart.
In addition, we celebrate our core values, knowing that unity has come here to be
Spirit-centered,
and to express the values of
love, peace, and connection.
And now it's time for a moment with our children.
Right here.
Okay, don't mind me, I have a few notes here. But anyway, so when I was little, I really thought that my dad knew everything, like everything. Because he pretty much always had an answer for me if I had a question. So, do you guys ask your parents some pretty tough questions? Yeah? Well, yeah, I remember I must have been like 4, and I asked him, do you know everything? Because I started to wonder, it really seemed like it, and he was like, no. I don't know everything, nobody does. And that really surprised me. In fact, I really doubted that. I'm like, are you sure? Because it seems like you do. What don't you know? Yeah. He said, no one knows everything except God. And so that had me thinking. So do you guys know about that feeling of doubt? When somebody tells you something and you're like, really? Not so sure. Because we all have been asking questions pretty much since we were born, right? Questions. So we're so curious. We really want the right answer. We don't want to be wrong, right? Why is it important that you get the right answer?
You tell people the truth. And what do you say, Selma? You don't lie.
Okay. Why do you want the right answer, Penny?
Because then you can tell other people it, and it'll be right.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of important to have the right answer because it really affects what you do, what choices you make, and how you behave. If you know, and depending on what you believe, you might choose to do one thing or another thing. So that's why we always want the truth, right? So how do we get the truth?
We tell people the truth and what we did.
Okay, yes. And how do we find the truth about things?
Someone who is supposed to.
Okay, yeah, we just ask questions. And sometimes we ask questions of people, and sometimes we just have to look for the answers ourselves by doing research or different things. But we've got to keep curious and keep asking questions. That's what can lead us to the truth. And we need the truth to decide what to do. But did you know that that feeling of doubt when you're like, really? It's so important too, because nobody knows everything, right? And no matter how much you've learned, you're still not going to know everything. There's still going to be mysteries and more questions to ask. So it's okay to just have that door open all the time to new questions and new answers, and not ever think that you've landed on all the answers and that you don't have any more. Sometimes as you get older, you forget that there's a lot more you have to learn. So even in our classes, or right now, when I'm trying to teach you something, I certainly don't know everything either. So I'm just trying to encourage each of you to learn on your own and take your own responsibility for what you know and believe. Does anybody want to volunteer to read this little quote for me?
Believe nothing. Believe nothing, no matter where you read it or who has said it, not even if I have said it, unless it agrees with your own reason and your own common sense.
Whoa, how does that make you feel? You don't have to believe anything. You have to figure out if it makes sense, and you're the only one who can figure that out. So that, you know who said that?
Buddha?
Yeah, Buddha. So you may have heard of him. A wise teacher. A very wise teacher from another part of the world. Just like we follow the teachings of Jesus, and we hear a lot of good teachings from Buddha too. Okay, so here's our affirmation. It's so short and easy. I am always curious. I am always curious. Okay, and now let's stand up and share a blessing with the congregation. Our spiritual family. We love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ you are.
Today's word is healing. Our affirmation is, I am life, the radiant life of God. When I am experiencing illness or pain from an injury, I may forget that wholeness is my natural state of being. As I focus on symptoms, the feeling of illness or injury may grow stronger. It's then I remember the truth. I am a living expression of God, created in God's image and likeness. Divine life, the very life of God, is my spiritual inheritance. In prayer, I align my thoughts and feelings with the power of life. as I move deeply into prayer. Any lingering thoughts of illness or injury dissolve. With my faith-inspired vision, I see the energy of life circulating everywhere in my body, bringing renewed vitality. Every cell of my body glows with the power of life. Our scripture reading is from the Gospel of John. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. Join me in speaking the affirmation aloud. Together,
I am life, the radiant life of God.
And now repeat it to yourself silently.
because I'm a walker. And someone will help me remember to move it back, because I'm sure someone needs it. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. Spiritual community, uplifting, empowering, happy, maybe not so much. Sometimes we come to spiritual community because we're feeling a little down. Other times we come because we're feeling empowered and up and confident, and we want to share that, yes? Yes. So that's what we're going to do this morning. We've already done it some. This morning, I don't know if I broke protocol, but I invited a couple of young men to join us in the prayer circle. I'm like, come on, kids, come pray. Everybody come pray. Come on, everybody come pray. Yeah. If you haven't met me, you'll get used to it. So, before I launch into the message, I want to, you got a sentence or two of that quote from Buddha about, what to believe or what not to believe about doubt. But I wanted to give you the whole quote. So this is what Buddha says, and this would have been 2,600 years ago. Do not believe in anything simply because you have heard it. Right? Do we need that message now more than ever, or what? If social media had been around, he probably would have added on TV, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. So do not believe in anything simply because you have heard it. Do not believe in traditions because they have been handed down for many generations. Do not believe in anything because it is spoken and rumored by many. Do not believe in anything simply because it is found written in your religious books. Do not believe in anything merely on the authority of your teachers or elders, which means you have permission to not believe a single thing I say this morning. Just wipe me clean. But after observation and analysis, when you find that anything agrees with reason and is conducive to the good and benefit of one and all, then accept it and live to it. Yeah, the first part was easy, right? If you don't believe it because you heard it, don't believe it because it's written in all these spiritual books or religious books, don't believe it because you hear it from teachers and elders, and then comes the caveat. But if it's conducive to the good and benefit of one and all, not either or, but one and all, then take it. Don't just accept it, take it, but be it. That's where we get a tall order comes in. That's where our work is. And so that's actually what I was intrigued to see where, going, where this little lesson, it's my favorite time of church is when there's this, in churches I've worked in, I've done this, I sit here and the kids are there. And the reason I love it is because you never know what's going to come out of someone's mouth. You ask questions and you hope to God there isn't at least a profane word in it, right? Everything else you can work with. But she asked this question about, about having doubt or whatever. And there was once one of the children said, it was the complete opposite, I think, of what was expected. Where she was like, "Yeah, that's great." And I thought, future theologian. Perfect. Yes. Because that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm actually talking about this morning. The talk title is, Count Me Out If There Is No Doubt. Count me out if there is no doubt. Did anybody see that and wonder, what the heck is that? Excellent. My work is done. Yeah, count me out if there is no doubt. What do you think I meant by that?
Questioning.
Believe for yourself. Keep questioning.
Keep an open mind.
Keep an open mind.
Don't hate yourself for doubting.
Yeah. Did you say don't hate yourself for doubting? Is that what I heard? Yeah. What up?
Everything.
What?
Doubt everything.
Yeah?
Don't hang out with know-it-alls.
Yeah. Right, which may mean a very lonely existence. Especially if I'm the know-it-all. Yeah, know-it-alls. Anything else?
Question authority, but with respect.
Question authority, but with respect. And even respect is up for negotiation. Like, what constitutes respect to a 15-year-old could be radically different than a 45-year-old. Yeah, that's all of that is what I'm talking about. All of that is what I mean was, count me out if there is no doubt. And the reason that, and really what I'm pointing at is this journey of faith. I often hear people make statements about that fear is the opposite of faith. And when I hear that, I go, no. That's part of the journey of faith. Or I hear people say doubt is the opposite of faith. And then I really get worked up. Because for me, doubt is necessary to our journey of faith. It's necessary, it's foundational, which is why I say, if there isn't any doubt, count me out. If this group, I'm not picking on anyone over here. I'm just generally pointing. So if there's a group over here that says, this is what is to believe, I'm going to go, yeah, count me out of that group. I'm going over here to the island of the misfits that have absolutely no idea. We're just sort of, I don't know, we're figuring it out as we go along. And the irony is that I need them both, really, both. You ever have, especially, well, for me anyway, I'll say for a little while now and currently, but do you ever have moments where you, if there's, like at the end of the day, or I don't know, in the middle, you hear something from someone, or you're watching the news, or you read a news article, or whatever, and you think to yourself, okay, I need someone to throw me a certainty bone. I just can't take any more not knowing. Right? I have those moments frequently because there's so much change. There's so much going on. It's actually, and you've heard it before, there's, all this change going on, and so often we resist it. The irony is that life, by definition, is change. So we're actually resisting life by not embracing what's changing. But at the same time, I would like to be navigating that change without a hole in the bottom of my boat. Right? Right? So when I make a joke about somebody needs to throw me a certainty bone, you need them both. Every spiritual truth is a paradox. So walking this spiritual journey requires some certainty. It also requires some mystery. Mystery, doubt has an element of mystery. You heard the kids talking about being curious. It's the most powerful spiritual practice you have at your disposal is to be curious. To be curious in all things. Yet sometimes we have a tendency when we get curious and we hear things or experience things that are uncomfortable or rub up against what we thought was certain, we say, nope, not for me, without actually diving in and trying it on. That's where that's the doubt piece, right? It's not to just dismiss something outright, but actually try it on. Is it, as Buddha says, is it for the good of one and all? And if so, accept it and live it. That's the harder part, to live it. It's easy to be spiritual in a cave, right? It's perfect. If there are any living creatures around, it's probably some kind of animal who doesn't speak or doesn't speak my language and, doesn't have an opposable thumb, so isn't going to, get in the way of doing much. And so it's easy to be spiritual in a cave, to be by myself, to be in my principles, right? To be in what I know is truth. This is truth, and draw a line. And sometimes I think we can be a little like that. And when I say we, collectively we, in unity, in other faith traditions, because there's all this mystery and uncertainty going on. So, the one thing I want you to know about Count Me Out If There Is No Doubt is that we have a faculty of wisdom, right? It's one of the 12 powers. I'm going to guess you're familiar with the 12 powers or heard the phrase, we're sitting in a Unity church. Okay, I'm going to let Lori know she needs to do a little work with that. Get in a few glazed looks. I'm only teasing a little bit. I am going to let her know. But so one of the faculties or one of the powers or one of the, our capacities, one of our greatest capacities in navigating change and navigating doubt is the faculty of wisdom. Right? Our capacity to discern. And the beauty of wisdom is that if you listen to how it's talked about, it's often as though we're getting information from somewhere else, like we're a radio beacon, attracting information from somewhere else. And that's not what wisdom is at all. Wisdom is an interior. We are becoming aware and connecting to our own higher self. To our own, the classic unity term would be superconsciousness, right? To our most noble self. Y'all know you have a most noble self, right?
Yes.
All right, so like 12 of you. Okay, squirrel moment. I haven't, warning you, I haven't spoken on Sunday in a little while, and so I'm realizing how much I missed it. And connecting and you know, being a little lighthearted and then being a little serious, but so hence the joking. So, but yes, we each have a most noble self. Are we aware of what that is? What that looks like, what that sounds like, how we be that? Right? That's the end of that Buddha quote. Accept it and live it. So the faculty of wisdom is our faculty of discernment. Right? Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, talked about going to headquarters. Right? We all are headquarters unto ourselves. We all are a manifestation of that oneness. So there are many onenesses. So when you say there's truth, there's one truth, well, whose truth are you talking about? The faculty of wisdom, the power of wisdom, the practice of wisdom is not about knowing more. It's not about getting information from out here somewhere. It's about activating our most noble self. And wisdom becomes about knowing more of self. Not knowing more of you. Right? So, what does that have to do with doubt? Bless you. Because when we have doubt, when we're unsure, when we're unclear, when you're sitting, for some people, when they first come into Unity and they hear new phrases and they hear new definitions and new understandings, I had someone long ago say to me, don't go messing with my Jesus. And I looked at her, I said, oh, sorry, but you're not going to find him hanging on a cross in a Unity church. Right? But she was bumping up against a belief system that was very certain for her, that defined her faith, that defined for her how, you know, if I look at what this means, you know, what her belief, what her theology, what her ethics had been, and it was very certain on it, and then walks into a Unity church and discovers, oh, wait, there's different. There's something else, right? There's all of a sudden this doubt. Doubt is a place, when you have a sense of doubt about anything, it's a place of growth. It's a place of growth. So when you have doubt about, and it doesn't matter what it is, and something you hear on the news, something you hear that, here, I'll give you one. This may, if I haven't already disturbed someone, this might. How many of you heard a song, either you've sang a song with lyrics or you've heard someone say something about God using me? You know, that God uses us or God uses me. Yeah. Many of us have heard it, we've sang it, and there's some measure of comfort in it. Well, did you know that that's actually backwards of Unity teachings? In Unity, God is principle. We use principle, so we use God. Charles Fillmore even said it. So that's like, oh, wait a minute. Go back to the other one. I knew that one, that was more comforting. Right? It made sense, I could get on board with it, I knew it. There is a comfort in it. I don't deny that. In my deepest, darkest moments, there is comfort for this woman when I am so deep in the dark and so lost in my own backyard that I need a moment, that bone of certainty, right? To hold on to. And sometimes it's that. It doesn't matter what my cognitive brain says. And then as I tap into the faculty of wisdom and become more aware of me and learn more about me, I go, okay, now I can step into that uncertainty that I use God. I use principle. I use the principle of love. I use the principle of joy. I use the principle of zeal. I use the principle of faith. We, right? As opposed to waiting, you know, like there's a marionette that's using me, right? And please hear me. You don't have to, remember the Buddha quote? You have permission to erase everything I've said. Really. Take it, or not. So I want to use a story that, it's a children's story, that many of us are familiar with. It's the story of Stone Soup. Yeah, it's been around a while, I think. But it's an amazing story to illustrate the point of, count me out if there is no doubt. And it's a story of then moving beyond that, of being curious, using the faculty of wisdom to move through doubt, to recognize that when I have moments of doubt, when I have a moment of doubt about how I'm raising my children, about the job I'm in, about how I just spoke to you, about how I have been unkind, when I have doubt about how I'm, am I doing the right thing for the environment? Am I loving my neighbor as well as I can? Am I really stretching myself? It's easy to do simple things, but am I moving myself out into being uncomfortable in, living what I know, in living my faith? So the story of Stone Soup is actually a really good story about that, and I'll do a rough drive-by for it. So there's this village that's starving, and they have nothing to eat, and there's all these families that have, when a village is starving, when a town is starving, when a group of people are starving, whether you're talking literally or figuratively, you're kind of in a mode of contraction, right? All you can think about is, I'm hungry, I need this one thing, and how do we get there? And everyone else, I don't have time for anyone else, and we become afraid, right? And we now go down the road of this doubt and this uncertainty, and when we stay in there long enough, not activating our wisdom faculty, now we move into fear. Now we move into fear of each other. Now we move into what's different is not good. What's different is I need to be afraid of. What's different is why I have this fence around me and my world, right? So there's this village that's starving, and people are afraid of each other, and they pretty much stay inside. They begin to recognize that they either don't speak the same language, or they pray differently, or it may be a family that doesn't even believe in God, right? Or you may look at the village and everybody looks the same, and everybody believes the same, right? We can't have anything different here. That would upset our apple cart, right? And so most of us know being in groups either way. There's someone they dress differently. Maybe they show up on Sunday. Oh, you didn't come on Sunday. Oh. Those may not be here. I'm not saying that goes on here. Just telling you, I've walked into churches like that before. So there's this starving village, and I use the word starving because they're literally in the story, they're starving, they haven't eaten. But I want you to think about starving in terms of safety, of security, of love, of connection, of community, of belonging. You ever know anybody that's starving to know that their presence here matters? I do, because that's me sometimes. So this stranger rolls into town. In the middle of the village, she stops, she sets up a fire, she pulls a pot out of her knapsack, she goes down to the river, fills it up with water, comes back, she puts it on the fire, and while it's boiling, she gets into her knapsack, she pulls out a couple rocks, drops them into the pot, and starts stirring it. Now, while she's doing all this, people are starting to look outside their little blinds, peeping outside of the blind. They're getting curious, right? What is she doing? Who is this person? Who is this stranger? Why is she here? What's going on? And the curiosity gets the better of them. It'll get the better of us every time. We're humans, we're curious, we're going to go where there's life. So a couple of them, some kids kind of come out, and then some adults. And somebody asks her, what are you doing? And she says, I'm making stone soup. And one of the kids says, well, is it ready yet? I'm starving. And she goes, no, it's going to need some potatoes, I think. And it's quiet for a second. And one of the adults says, oh, I have potatoes at my house. And he goes back to his house, and he rummages into the dark closets in the back corners of his house where neighbors would never know exist and neighbors would never go. And he pulls out some potatoes. He comes back to the village. She chops them up, puts them in the soup. She stirs it. And another kid says, is it ready yet? And she goes, no, it's going to need some carrots. So another adult goes, I think I have some carrots. She goes back to her house, again, goes into the back closet, goes to the places in her house where neighbors would have never gone or even know exist, comes back and she's got some carrots, same thing, cut them up, throw them in the soup, stirs the soup up. Meanwhile, more people are coming out of their homes and getting curious and what's going on here. Adult pipes up and goes, "We're really hungry. Is it done yet?" And she says, "No, I think it needs some onions." And this goes on. And next it's spices, right? And then, like salt or pepper or some garlic and some other vegetables. And little by slowly, people ask, "Is it ready yet?" "No, it needs this. No, it needs..." And then eventually it reaches the point where someone says, "Is it ready yet?" And she says, "Yes." And they feast. And the entire village eats and no one is starving. And then she packs up her belongings and she leaves and she heads off to the next starving village. What makes it such a powerful story is that for us as adults, there's 3 things she does that invites us into this journey of doubt and why it's necessary, and how the point of doubt, where you have a point of doubt, becomes your point of growth and to practice wisdom, is that the first thing she does is she has this vision, right? That she knows that when she arrives, it's just a bunch of inhabitants living in the same area. What she sees is a community. What she sees is all of the differences, and she sees community. The second thing she does is when she sees those differences, she knows that every single place that there's something different, every single difference has something to offer. So every single person that is a little different, and may speak a little different, may pray a little different, may or may not believe in God, dresses a little different, uses, different, likes different music, and yet they each have something to contribute. But it's knowing that, right? So it's not just knowing it, but accepting it and then being it. The third thing she does is she creates a space so people can contribute what's theirs to contribute. So people can come together and collaborate. I don't need you to be the same. In fact, I don't want you to be the same. In fact, several years ago, I know it's a favorite term in some unity circles, but people use the word like-minded. I jettisoned that phrase years ago because I understand what's trying to be said, in terms of like-minded, but it's become a catchphrase for being homogenous. And frankly, I don't want like-minded, I just want you. Whether your mind is like mine or not, we'll figure that out if I'm curious enough and I be open to doubt and use, with wisdom, become more aware of me. If I create a space where what's different about you from me, I've created a space that you can bring your potatoes, you can bring your carrots, you can bring whatever, to make this soup that everyone gets to feed on, as opposed to having like-minded and likeness. Does that make sense? 3 of you. Well, that makes me happy. Then I know 3 people are listening. I'm good. So count me out if there is no doubt. It can sound a little extreme, but what it means for me is that if there isn't doubt emerging, then I wonder if we're being curious enough. I wonder if I'm creating a space where it's okay for you to show up different. Not just okay, but I know that you have something to contribute, to bring, right? To add to the soup, to add to our nourishment, to add to our community, to add to our creation, to add to this world that is so sometimes a little crazy, and I run screaming from the room because I can't take it anymore. I have those moments. By the way, another squirrel moment, and then we're gonna move into meditation. This Friday, March 6th, is, it has an actual term, but it's about being offline. Like no electronic devices. Go all day, 24 hours, no electronic devices. None. Think you can do that?
Yes.
I know some people are like, absolutely. Yeah. So if there is, it's a wonderful day to actually tap into, to pause, take a moment. Where is there doubt in my life? Affirm that that place of doubt is a place of growth. It's a place of evolution. It's a place to pay attention to. It's a place to be curious about. And it's a place to direct my wisdom. Right? So count me out if there is no doubt. It just means to embrace the doubt with the way I embrace what's certain. To celebrate what's different. To celebrate this stone soup. So let's take that into meditation. Take a deep breath, inhale. Big exhale. Comfortable, close your outer eyes. Another deep breath in, and a big exhale. Hear those words echoing within yourself. I am a blessing to the world. Feel the energy of the person to the left of you, to the right of you, in front of you, and behind you. And silently affirm you are a blessing. Now extend that awareness beyond what is immediately around you, beyond this room. Beyond the street corner that we're on. Beyond and beyond and beyond. Silently affirming we are a blessing. A blessing is not something that we give, it is what we inherently are. A blessing is our inherent goodness come to life. When you're unsure that you are a blessing, that those around you are blessings, you pause, you recognize the doubt as a point of growth, a point of evolution, a point of affirmation, that you can be nothing less, because you are inherently designed as a blessing. doubt reminds us that we need each other, that we belong to each other, that we are good, that life is good. Doubt reminds us to reach out, especially when we're feeling doubt, to reach out in faith. Let's take a few moments in the silence and feel ourselves reaching out to the areas in our life where there may be doubts and uncertainties, but we're reaching with our head, our hands, and our hearts. We reach out in faith. In the silence, in the silence. As we bring our attention back into this space, I invite you to remember the stranger in the village, that when you have moments of doubt, be as the stranger in the village, seeing differences as places for meaningful contribution, for a greater vision, for spaces of creation and collaboration and growth, and bringing to life your most noble self, your inherent goodness. And so it is. Amen.
is necessary for the journey of faith to grow. As the Buddha, as I like to boil the Buddha's quote down to, see for yourself, stay curious, use the faculty of wisdom, one of our 12 powers, to go to headquarters, to know more of self, our most noble self, to step into using the principle of God, to be spiritual firecrackers, echoes of the divine, blessings to this world. So where there's doubt, count me in. So thank you. Now we turn our attention to the spiritual practice of generosity. In unity, we find joy in sharing our time, talent, and treasure. Now is the time to share our treasure. Any gift given from the heart has the power to transform lives. This week, your gift supports the mission of Unity of Columbia and our partner in service, the Chorus. If you give your gift to the service today, please hold your gift in your hand. If you give by some automated means, please hold your gift in your heart. And let us speak our offering blessing together. Divine love,
one with me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am joy-filled and grateful.
We have two symbols of blessing standing before us this morning. First is the prayer box being held by Reverend Marcy, a member of our prayer ministry team. In prayer, we affirm and encourage each other to expand our consciousness, to accept health, wealth, happiness, universal oneness, and light. Second is the love offering being held by Lemur, a member of our usher ministry team. We bless these gifts and express gratitude to you for the opportunity to make a difference in the lives of our spiritual family and our world. And so it is. Amen. At Unity, we are about transforming lives. Each Sunday, we come together to experience God and connection. And unity is more than a Sunday morning experience. We offer many experiences throughout the week to expand our awareness of God and to bring us closer to each other. So take a moment to look in your bulletin for upcoming opportunities. This month, our featured artist in the Solar Gallery is Lisa Chrisman. Lisa creates beautiful, color-drenched pastel landscapes. Please join us after the service to meet the artist and see the art. Next Sunday at 1 o'clock, Unity of Columbia is hosting a citywide gender identity training event. This event is an opportunity to learn about gender identity, gender expression, and sexual identity. Participants will learn things that you can do to create a safe, affirming, and inclusive environment for all people, creating that stone soup. Did you ever wonder about unity in more depth? Our next Heart of Unity class begins next Sunday and runs for 4 weeks. This class is required to become a voting member of Unity of Columbia. The bookstore is planning a used book sale in the Solar Gallery March 8th and the 15th after the service. See details in the bulletin about donating books. We are seeking people interested in running the sound for our Sunday services. The team is very thinly stretched. Thank you, Ellen. Although this job seems pretty technical, it is a skill set that can be learned. Reverend Laurie says even she has learned to run the soundboard and set up microphones. And our AV team leader, Charlie, wave your hand back there, Charlie, is a patient teacher. So if you want to learn something new, talk to Charlie right after the service today. I invite you to stand, take your neighbor's hand as we pray.
How we feeling? Good. Okay, so let's take that joy, that compassion, that energy out into the world and to be it. We give thanks for this time together, acknowledging the person on the left and the person on the right, and together we say amen. Amen. And so it is.
So we are doing different closing hymns each month now. So this week we are doing a new one. So just kind of patience as we learn this one together.